guys, this is Banksy again with PLX Outdoors, episode number 4. So here we go. I had a request from my cousins who live in Missouri, and also my uncle and that lives in Colorado. They were asking some questions, so I'm gonna do a quick Q&A with their questions and kind of give my insight, and hopefully it'll help them and help you guys as well. Today I'm in the parking lot right now. I'm gonna do this quick Q&A and then head out to the woods for evening set. Today is Tuesday the 11th and it is 12:10 right now. So his first question from Tommy in Missouri is, what significant sources do you look for most on public lands? That's a great question. So basically we're looking for food sources just like anybody else. Early season acorns, the more secluded they are the better. Anywhere where the deer aren't getting pressured and seeing or smelling humans in the woods. Anything that's kind of tucked away, maybe a further walk or somewhere off the road where people are often overlooking, those are great spots. But yeah, as far as early season, you can do acorns, you can do pastures or food plots, but on public lands that's pretty hard to find, so you do have to kind of work at it and also get out there and scout. For pastures, I think they're great for early season just because not many people have been out yet, and the deer don't really get all the pressure that they will be getting in the next couple months. So anything that is undisturbed, where the deer feel calm and they're not harassed by any hunters or people hiking or horseback riding, that's always a great spot to start. For number 2 would be beds. Yes, we do look for beds. Excuse me. The thicker the better, meaning say cutovers, anywhere where there's a bunch of sapling trees. I find that usually the longer stretches, anywhere 100-yard stretch or longer, further, and they have to be about usually 50 yards wide. Those hold probably the most deer and usually the bigger bucks, just because it's so hard to get to, and as soon as you approach them it's pretty loud, so they can hear, and then they can just take off any other exit corridors that they have. So basically the thicker the better, and the harder to see through, that's even better for them and also for you. Maybe just start off hunting the edges and then slowly work your way inside. Usually there's little pockets, so if you can find those little pockets, that's great. Second question was from Tommy. He said, do you hunt water systems used for traveling, such as like connecting spot or highway? I have in the past, but unless it's a really hot and dry summer, then I tend not to stick too much to water, just because by us there's so much water in the valleys, and there's a lot of creek beds, so it's kind of hard to pinpoint where they're at exactly near water. But if there is limited water and you know it's going to be a hot and dry summer, that might be a good place to start right away, seeing that the deer will be going to that water source. The bucks are probably bedded further back, and then they're coming out probably at night or even into the night, so you'll probably have to push back towards the bedding more. That's probably where the bigger bucks are going to be. But I know a lot of people do it. I know a lot of people are successful. Number 3, his third question was bedding areas like elk, meaning these guys hunt a lot of elk. They run out to Colorado every year, and Uncle Steve is from there also, so they do quite a bit of elk hunting. So yes, we do hunt bedding areas just like you guys do for elk. The only difference is that we don't have the mountains, so we're not climbing thousands of feet of elevation to get to the bedding ridges or the benches. So yes, we are hunting bedding, but not as extreme as you guys. We might have maybe 50 to 100 feet difference of elevation from a valley to a ridge, but it's not extreme like in the thousands or a few hundreds. But yes, we do, just like you guys, we target pine thickets, anywhere where there's diverse trees meeting at points or like on a ridge, hillside, anything like that. Um, Anything that can attract the deer or elk too. That's basically what we're doing too. Especially the pine thickets. Those are usually really, really good. If you find one, if you go in there, you'll see travel corridors, you'll see poop, you'll see rubs and everything in beds with hair in it. So that's always a good sign, always a good place to start. Clear cuts are also very good from what I've seen and also heard. Basically, these are areas where people or their government has contracted lumber companies to come and cut wood and clear down some of the trees, and then they'll eventually start to grow back, and then there's a ton of sapling trees. I'll put a few pictures and also a short video of myself walking through it so you guys can compare. Basically, the taller it is, the better. The thicker it is, the better, because it'll be hard for you to see inside of it. And usually the deer are bedded on the opposite end of that clear cut, or they could be directly inside of it. And then if you try to approach them, it's usually pretty noisy, a lot of thorns and briars and vines, so they'll hear you from, say, 50, 75, 100 yards away. If they know that you sound like a human, they'll just kind of exit and you'll never see them because it's so thick. Also in those clear cuts, there's usually a lot of underbrush, meaning they clear a lot of the big trees and unwanted trees, and then a lot of plants will grow up. Those are really good spots for deer, especially in the early season when it's still warm out. They don't have to move much, and then they can have green browse right around them. And so if you can put all that together, especially with a lot of big acorn trees, oaks, then the deer really don't have to move far at all, maybe just 20 to 50 yards, and then they can just browse on whatever they want, whether that be acorns or just brush and twigs or vines. Usually there's a lot of green leaves here, I know where we're at, so they really don't have to move. So you really have to get into that bubble of probably 50 to 100 yards of where they're bedding, and then when they filter out towards the evening or mornings, then you can get a shot. The fourth question Tommy asked was, do you hunt food source traffic coming from private to public? And to answer that, yes, we do. Usually in the early season, everything's still thick and there's food everywhere, there's acorns everywhere. And anything with water, as long as it's undisturbed, those are good starting points. But basically you have to go scout and find what's hot at that time, because every week things are changing. There's cold fronts coming in, so some vegetation is dying, some are still good throughout all the way up until pre-rut or even after. So finding what's hot at the moment is really the key. Hunting the food source during the pre-rut and during the rut and post-rut, really we're looking for thickets with that are still green, still looking for the big oak trees that are dropping, especially the white oaks. Those are usually the oaks that are about your thumbnail size here. We don't like the ones that are about pinky size, but the thumbnail one size, those are the gold money makers right there. So anything during the mid-rut or pre-rut, during the rut and post-rut, if you can find the thickets with acorns, those are really the ticket. And also I want to add to that, side hills of the ridges, those are usually really good, especially if they're thick with a lot of cover. We usually parallel them, find their travel corridors, and then also hunt those as well, just because we know that we've seen lots and lots of bucks cruising looking for does, and maybe they'll stop here and there just to eat a little bit and then get on with their way and just keep trying to find the next or the first estrus doe. Along with side hills, we do hunt a lot of leeward hills based on the wind for that day. But in hill country, you can't predict the wind. It could be forecasting, say, southwest. You get up on a ridge or a side hill, and then due to the topography, the wind could swirl, or it could be pulling and pushing a different way. So really, you really have to keep an eye on that. Higher, lower elevations, that's always tricky. So for you guys who don't know what a leeward hill is, basically it's a hill or a ridge, and then your leeward hill would be this side here with the wind blowing over it. So this is the ridge, and this is the leeward side with the wind blowing over it, like so. Basically, it's creating wind tunnels and currents and thermals that the deer will use, especially the big bucks. They'll travel through it. They'll smell for any danger or for any does or any other bucks in their area, and from there they can decide where to go, because there's a ton of escape routes. All they have to do is jump come up or down the ridge, and then they're on the next hilltop and you're done. So during the rut and the pre-rut, we are really focusing on our best doe spots on those hills and valleys and side hills and thickets. Basically, we just keep inventory of where we see the most doe, the biggest doe populations, and where the biggest doe activity is. Keep that, mark it, and then always come back to it later. That way you'll know that there's a group of does here, and then you'll know eventually there's going to be a big buck coming through to check it out. So if those areas that the does are living in have the essential foods and cover, pretty soon you'll see, if not one, many bucks run through it just looking for the does and looking to mate. And then hunting the private to public, the food source, basically late season, yes, for me myself, I'm hunting a lot of private to public type access for late season, just because I know that anywhere where the private pastures or lands have that good food and feed, then that's where a lot of the does and for sure the bucks will be. Basically just trying to time it right, trying to figure out where they're bedding, and then also see how they're traveling and on what winds they're tending to like that area the best. Tommy's last question is, show me why public lands would better my chances. So by answering that, I'm gonna have to say typically there's more land to actually hunt. There's a lot more diversity in vegetation and also land features, such as ridges, flat tops where there's grass, there's creeks, rivers, valleys, hills, everything that you can think of. Another thing is that on public land there's more animals, just because there's more land to cover. So usually compared to private, there are more animals and more mature animals. On the flip side of that is that it is more challenging because there's more pressure. A lot of guys are out there hunting as well, and you don't know what day and how they're hunting it, so that provides a big challenge for everyone that hunts public land. So with a lot of that pressure going in, the animals do feel it too, so they will tend to move. Like they talk about the October lull. Basically, the deer are moving, they're just not moving where the people are. So really, you got to go find those sweet spots. In addition to the challenge and also the human pressure, there's a lot more of the hiking. So typically, you're either walking a quarter mile if you're lucky and you find a good spot near the road, or you could be walking a mile plus just one way. So for you guys who elk hunt, that's nothing. I've seen that myself, and I give you guys kudos, much respect. But for whitetail, it's a little bit different. We don't have that big and vast lands, so we don't have to hike quite as far. But then with all your gear and your stands and everything, you're looking at about at least a mile, if not more. And that's what, on average, that's what we do. Maybe we're doing 3/4 mile to up to a mile and a half one way. So that's about average. And then I don't think that public lands would better your chances in a way, just because really it's all about challenging yourself. That's the idea. That's why we do it, just because we know it's not easy, and really it's pushing yourself to your limits, trying to learn, trying to pattern the deer, because when it comes together, that's the greatest feeling in the world, just figuring it out. Because we all know that hunting wild animals is not easy, like what everybody shows in their highlights. The biggest key here would be to e-scout, which I'm going to go through on the second part of this video. And then e-scouting, and then putting boots on the ground, meaning find your spots that you think might look good, and then actually going out there physically to run through it, walk through it, finding the sign, finding the bedding, the food, and just investing your time into doing it. Number 2 would be observation sits. Don't be afraid to just pop up somewhere and put up your stand and just spend a few hours there just to see what the deer are doing and how they're moving using the land features, and seeing if you're correct about how you e-scouted, picking a spot and then doing an observation sit, just so you can feel at ease about if it's a good spot or not a good spot. And then I think the third biggest key is basically you're seeing the land when you're out there e-scouting and also putting boots on the ground. You get to see the land and the habitat from the deer's perspective, and then you can soon put together the reasons why they're there, meaning certain trails or certain bedding areas, the time of day they're actually using those areas. They really do it for a reason, and especially the big bucks, they don't make many mistakes. This video, just a short video that I wanted to share with you guys. This is the type of thicket that I love to hunt. Early season, it's a lot taller and a lot thicker, and then now saying it's almost mid-January, pretty much all the vegetation is dead. It's very thorny. There's a lot of briars, a lot of sapling trees, so it's very difficult to walk through. But this is what the deer love, and we found that usually the deer are just bedded on the opposite side of us, seeing that there's a trail and then the thicket, and then the other side of it is exactly where the deer are liking to travel, just because they feel secluded. They are not able to see you, you're not able to see them, but they can also hear you walking through the thicket or on the trail. And if they feel like you are not a threat, then they won't run off. But if they do, you can hear them running off, especially in the late evenings or early mornings, going in and out of the woods. We bump them all the time around these thickets. But yeah, this is the type of feature that I love to hunt, just because we've seen a lot of big bucks and does travel in and out of these areas. And especially during the rut, those mature bucks will take those does to go hide in these little thickets to get him away from all the other deer, and then he'll just have his way with them. So hopefully this helps, and you guys will be a little bit more successful. Hey guys, so in closing, I just want to say thank you for viewing this video. Thanks to Tommy and Uncle Steve for submitting some questions for me. I'm actually going to head out to the woods now, so I'm going to get dressed quick and then get out there, put out maybe one camera, and then check another one that I have out for about 2 weeks now. So hopefully I get some good footage. I'll post it up. And just want to encourage you guys to share with your friends and family, and also participate in our Patreon page. Everything will be very much appreciated. And just want to say good luck to you guys. Be safe out there, and fishing is just around the corner. So in our next video, part 5 or episode 5, part 2 of this, I will be answering some more questions and also showing how I use Onyx to be a little bit more successful. So you guys can hopefully use those tips as well. And yeah, you guys take care, be safe. Thanks.